Crusader Kings 3 is a game all about kings that go crusading. Or so you would think. Because despite being literally the name of the game, most players never actually end up crusading as kings. Today, we're going to fix that. Starting as a weak French duke, we'll build up an army of crusaders, become a king, and then go on a crusade to retake the Holy Land. Our starting Duchy of Piedmont is looking a bit too small to launch a crusade from, so I set my sights on my very first conquest, the county of Cuneo. It happens to be ruled by my 6-year-old cousin, Bonifacio.
Hello.
Family bonds can be very complicated in the medieval times. And besides, I'm giving this land to his aunt, that just happens to be my mother, so I'm not exactly stealing land, just redistributing the family wealth. Though I can't imagine that the next family reunion is going to be anything less than very, very awkward. I took my castle. Hey, but it's fine, listen, it's war, it happens. Listen, you were just bad. I managed to scramble together an army together with some of my other cousins, and we marched on the unsuspecting 6-year-old's castle. And to literally no one's surprise, the defense led by a first grader doesn't go too well, and his troops crumble faster than a fucking crouton, letting us begin the siege of his castle. But just as we're setting up the trebuchets, I get a message.
Klop, 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 klop.
Hello, I am your Kaiser. It's nice to finally meet you. I'm married to your sister. I heard that you're planning on becoming a great crusader, so I'd like to help you on your quest. You also seem like a really chill guy. So here's a few more vassals to rule over.
Klop, 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 klop.
And just like that, I gain control over Geraud of Geneva, as well as Count Othon of Monferrato. Wow, that's so nice of him. Wow, what a cool guy. Alright, the siege. We break through the walls of Cuneo Castle and manage to capture one of my other cousins as a war hostage. What the hell, this guy has so many cousins. And with that, we win the war and become the new lord of Cuneo, giving us a well-needed boost to our future crusader army. My mother then celebrates her victory by marrying my uncle for some reason? I don't know, man. I don't even want to know. So to get away from all of this increasingly complicated family business with cousin wars and uncle marrying, I asked my bishop to fabricate a claim on the rich and powerful coastal county of Genoa. This would prove to be a really good move, because becoming a Crusader King is surprisingly expensive, and the gold that we will get from this holding alone will support us all the way to Jerusalem. But first, we have to win the actual war, which ended up being a lot harder than I initially thought. I was already way outnumbered, but when the Prince Bishop calls in a Dutchman to a fight that should have rightfully been between Italians and Frenchmen, I become way outnumbered and suffer my first defeat, as well as the loss of my obese doctor. Rest in peace, fat doctor. But as the worst firefighter of all time once said, sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. And if he's going to call in a Dutchman to this fight, I'm going to call in the Irish, effectively doubling my army. We make short work of sieging down the keep of Monaco and proceed to breach the walls at Genoa. We then rush over to break the enemy siege camp that has surrounded our capital. But in true Italian style, the Prince Bishop abandons his Dutch allies, letting us simply kill them. This strategical blunder lets us divide and conquer like Caesar, and we end up defeating the Italian army the same way they defeated us. This humiliating defeat causes the Italians to surrender, and we become the new ruler of Genoa, not only giving us some well-needed soldiers for our crusading army, but also a whole lot of gold to our war chest. But to become a Crusader King, we need to be, well, an actual king. We have enough troops, we have enough gold. Now all we need is a claim on a kingdom, and I know exactly where to get one. We were going to Jerusalem.
Greetings, sire. The desert awaits you.
But not to conquer, at least not for now. We were simply going as pilgrims. This is a must-do if we are to become a true Crusader King, and it will give us the approval of the Pope, which can be very useful when we're trying to become a king. So off we sailed into the Mediterranean, and many great things happened on my way to the Holy Land. I got mugged by an Italian bodybuilder. A monk offered me many libations, and together we made it all the way to Rome, where I agreed to hire him as a brewmaster for my court. But travel can be very dangerous, and we were beset upon by bandit outriders just outside of the pyramids of Egypt. I was just about to start planning my last words when my caravan master turned to me with a big smile. And his brave sacrifice gave us just enough time to ride from the lands of Egypt all the way to the gates of Jerusalem, where we took one selfie together as proof that we'd been there, and promptly sailed straight to Rome. We showed the Pope proof of our pilgrimage, and this combined with our reputation of being an all-around chill guy was enough for him to get us a claim on the entire kingdom of Lotharingia. It also helped our cause a little bit that the current King Gerhard was a lustful sodomite adulterer. But worse than that, a Franconian. He simply had to go, and the Pope entrusted us with the mission to make this happen. There was only a small problem. King Gerhard had an army of 3,500, and we only had 1,700 Crusaders. The math was just simply not mathing. But then I remembered, Duke Pierre has 3 daughters, and in medieval times, that means 3 alliances. Our first alliance was with the Kingdom of France, that was ruled by none other than the Dutch king, Robert III, who looked like he genuinely had no idea how he became the King of France. The second ally came in the form of a legendary furry, Duke Robert, the Fox. Our righteous armies were able to face off against the forces of the sinner, and as God willed it, victory was ours, and Lotharingia was mine. They think of me as a conqueror, but they don't know I'm just a chill guy. We have now completed half of the challenge. We were a king. Now all we needed was a crusade. But the crusades wouldn't canonically fire for another 20 years, so we still had some time to amass an even greater force of crusaders. And that's where something unexpected happened. I got a message. You see, I may or may not have invited my brother-in-law, friend, and leech to sample some of the new creations from the Jerusalem brewer that I picked up on my first pilgrimage. Oh, it should be stated for the history books that my brother-in-law, friend, and leech are all the same person. As the strategic meeting became more and more intense, me and my brother-in-law started talking, and it was decided that the realm needed a pious, humble, and chill guy to rule it. And that guy was me. And that's how I find myself as the primary heir to the Holy Roman Empire. But first, there was the story of something else. Margrave Conrad invited me to his wedding, and Pierre, perhaps a bit too eager to show off his new status as heir to the Holy Roman Empire, naturally accepted. Just for the grand wedding to be cancelled? Was this some sort of dark plot going on? He had pledged himself to another Conrad, an open, vile revolt against my friend, who wasn't exactly looking that good when it comes to troops. But soon the rebellion reached me as well. It was King Gerard who had been demoted from king to duke by me. Now we wanted his realm back. I wasn't gonna have it. We promptly called our allies, the Fox, the Dutchman, and a new addition to the team, a very punished looking Matilda the Canossa. But worse than the rebellion, my own half-brother Count Gebhard of Cuneo, a rakish man with a lover's pox, and his harlot lover, Duchess Adeline, had revolted against me. Now I have to beat my half-brother to death like a dog. And beat him to death we did, as he died. And with the first revolt put down, we get a pressed claim on the Holy Roman Empire. But this acquirement of a claim did not go unnoticed. And neither did the insane gains that Kaiser had made. Too many sweet buns. I did not intend to kill him, but kill him I did. And so Duke Pierre became emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. I, on the other hand, was angry because I only had daughters. The lack of heirs required drastic measures. I bribed the Pope in return for the contract to divorce my wife. And with that, we are back on the market looking for a date. We would need someone young, someone fecund, someone that would have a lot of potential to give me some strong boys. And I think I just found her. This little Polabian blonde hottie is the perfect candidate. She's just arrogant and lustful. Now, lustful is usually very, very bad, because that means that sure, she'll get pregnant, but they might not be my kids. But here's the kicker, she's gay. So we arranged for her wedding, and we will make it a grand one, just to really solidify her position as the new Roman emperor. But among the letters of well wishes and congratulations of my new marriage, there was another paper. It was from none other than Pope Johannes, declaring that it's time to take Jerusalem. And as I stood there at the altar and said my I do's, all I could think of was the Holy Land that beckoned. My friends, we go to Jerusalem. And as our boat sailed swiftly, we arrived on the coast of Jaffa. The enemy had barely 6,000 troops pledged to them, so I had no fear when I marched in. And there we have it, my friends. I've become a Crusader King in Crusader Kings. But as I arrived in the Holy Land, was this actually what my life had come to? A bunch of Christians just ravaging the land of 6,000 poor Egyptians, fighting amongst themselves, letting each other die, just for the chance of being the one that claimed Jerusalem themselves. It all became too much, and my mind began to dwell as the decisive battle of Jerusalem raged. My heart was filled with nothing as I stood on the ramparts, watching the city burn before me. This wasn't it. It may have been a crusade, but it wasn't my crusade. We had done it. We had taken the kingdom of Jerusalem! We were victorious! The glory of Christ had blessed us, and the Holy Land was ours once more. Yet why did Pierre feel so empty? They had taken Jerusalem. That was the Holy Land after all. Pierre did the only thing he knew to do. He prayed. He stopped praying for a while to get some refreshments. Just a little bit of the Holy Communion wine doesn't help when you commune with the Holy. And it wasn't until they made it all the way back home to Turin during the great celebration feast of the Crusade that he realized the problem wasn't what land they had taken, it was who was ruling it. Queen Adelaide! She was no woman of God, a gluttonous, greedy hag of a queen. You are the devil in disguise. But just moments after my outburst of anger, my wife fell to the floor. She was quickly rushed to the bedchamber, and pacing outside for hours, I waited. I feared for the worst. But then the midwife came out. My emperor, my Kaiser, a son. This was all the proof I needed. I must retake Jerusalem. With the power of the legend that we completed after I beat up the Kaiser, my brother-in-law, I declare war on my sister, the gluttonous, cynical, hunchback hag. She's an atheist. We will take Jerusalem. Again! Raising those forces, we quickly set to sea. But upon hearing the news of my actual invasion, my vile hag of a sister died in her sleep. Her successor, my nephew, he's worse. A whoring, lustful, rakish dog of a man. She's but only half-sister to me, as her father is Lucifer himself. Now let the true crusade begin! Their defenses fall like butter. We will take Jerusalem. We outnumbered them something awfully, and they died. And so, the Holy Roman Empire was left to Humpert? Supposedly one of my cousins, but that does not matter. This is Pierre. He's 53 years old, a crusader, and a king of Jerusalem. And all around, a very chill guy. And talking about videos, you can check out this video picked to you by the YouTube algorithm. It thinks you're really gonna like it, and just looking at that thumbnail, I have to agree. You're not gonna regret it. It's an absolute great video. Trust me, I made it myself. Alright? Alright, see you in that one. Bye!